Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Today's topic, marvelous migrations. Meet Mexico's winter residents. Presented by NatHab Expedition Leader Melissa Silva. I'm your host, Rob Mess. Thank you all so much for being here with us today. Over to you, Melissa.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rob. Welcome, everyone. So let's get started with this webinar. Well, my background, I'm a marine biologist. I was studying in Puerto Vallarta, my degree, for my career. And then, well, nowadays I'm living in Mexico City. Well, all this time I've been always in touch with these beautiful organisms that are the migratory species that come to Mexico in winter, in Puerto Vallarta with the humpback whales, and in nowadays here with the monarch butterflies. So I wanted to share with you like the reasons behind this phenomenon, and I hope you enjoy the webinar that I prepared for you today. So let's go from the general to the particular. What is a migration? What's a migration? Well, it's a movement, basically, from when we speak about zoology or biology, is the movement of one part or all of a population, of an animal population, that goes to an area or comes from an specific area. So basically, we can understand it as a regular movement or a seasonal movement of a group of animals. Why they move? Well, because there are certain characteristics in the environment mostly that are not friendly with these species. For example, there's not enough food, or the food that is available is of low quality. The habitat is changing in terms of it's getting colder or it's getting drier, and they might look for a breeding site, a mating ground where they can have their mating seasons while waiting for better conditions. So basically, it is all driven by the change on the seasons as the earth is spinning around, moving around the sun. So how they make these movements, how they know they have to migrate from one area to another? Well, basically, it's not really completely understood. It's not fully understood yet. But what scientists know now is that the changes in day length, it's getting darker sooner, or we have like less hours of sunlight. The animals notice that. Of course, lower temperatures that they can perceive as well. The changes in the food supplies, as I mentioned, can be it's a dry season, so there might not be I don't know, like enough grasses for for uh, for the animals there, or the food supply move also is migrating. So this the predator is moving with the following the prey. And there's another factor that is being studied very recently, that is the genetic predisposition. So it is thought that some species, some subspecies or populations of species, are genetically have a genetic predisposition of migration. So basically, in general terms, just to give a short answer, it's a mix of all of this. So we have like classifications, or we have like different types of migrations. We have migrations that can last for one generation or for several generations, depending on the lifespan of the species that is migrating. For example, the migration of one generation, we can find that on the salmons that are born, that are hatching on the river, in the river, then they move to the ocean, and that same generation will go back to the river where they were born, and they will mate and die after mating. So it's one migration for the generation. In the other hand, we have the monarch butterflies that it takes up to 5 generations to migrate north and back, it's the south and back north. And I explain you later in a coming slide about that. We also have something that we call horizontal migration and vertical migration. The horizontal migration basically is the migration that we all associate when we hear that word, the migration that moves from this location to this destination, like in this case, for example, birds that are moving from north to south when they are when the seasons are changing. So that would be the horizontal. They are basically, in general terms, on the same altitude. They are not staying on a higher altitude or on a lower altitude. So they are moving just from latitude instead of altitude. In the other hand, the vertical migration is precisely on the same given area. The organisms are moving up and down, so they are moving. In this case, the example I mentioned, the mesopelagic animals, they are moving on depth, so they can go deeper or they can go on shallower waters depending on the time of the day. So that's vertical. And for example, I don't know, like red foxes that are moving up and down from the mountains, following the food, but they move according to the season. So that's basically the vertical migration that can happen seasonally or daily, like I mentioned with the mesopelagic animals. And this is it takes us to the other kind of migration, the one that is yearly or the one that is daily. So I explained already how these animals move daily. They go to deeper waters at daylight, and they come to shallower waters during the night. So that's a daily migration that we have. But for example, the whale shark, they have a yearly migration from what we think is their breeding grounds to what we know are their feeding grounds. So every year is a movement of back and forth. So what's the importance of migration? Why we should keep this phenomenon happening? Why we should be interested on knowing about them and protecting them? Well, because they serve, for example, a purpose on the ecosystem. A lot of the species that are migrating, they are pollinators or seed distributors, but also they are food for other animals that rely on them when they move to those places from their let's say home place. But also they are indicators of the changes in the environment or the quality of the environment where they are. They also have a cultural value. For example, I just had a webinar about the relationship of Day of the Dead and the monarch butterflies and the traditions that the ancient people in Mexico had associated with this species. So they are part of legends and stories of religions of many cultures. For example, what I know, I think it's the Inuit, that they have a god that is an orca. So they are also part of medicine, some of them of traditional medicine, and well, it's a vital part of the culture of the of humankind actually. And then there's another value that we can like is more tangible for humans nowadays, is the economy factor. So in terms of local and global economy, the migratory species are very important because we have two main um, factors that we take from them. We use them as a way of entertainment, to put it on a way, via the ecotourism. So recreational activities or educational purposes as well, but they are also part of food and income for many people on the coast of the world. For example, commercial hunting or fishing, recreational hunting or fishing, and the one that I consider the most important is the subsistential hunting or fishing, like this one, aboriginal from, once again, the Inuit people. So well, you can see the migration has a very big value in many aspects for humans. So the migratory behavior appears not only on these species that I'm going to talk about, the mammals and the whales and the butterflies, but also in others. For example, reptiles. One of the longest migrations on reptiles are, of course, on sea turtles that move from one side to another in the oceans. And the longest register so far is one from a leatherback that traveled from the US, from, I think it was from California, to Papua, Indonesia. So it's one of the longest migrations that one vertebrate animal did. Another very long migration is from the whale shark that was tracked from Panama to the Mariana Islands, right next to the Mariana Trench. And well, they migrate. Basically, these animals are moving all the time because they are following their food. So they have to move where the food is available, and then later on they will go and check the mating grounds. That's basically the movement that they are doing. And well, birds is a very special case because birding is quite a passionate activity. A lot of people like to go outside birding, and then they have this, what they call lifers. So they move around the world looking for a bird that they can see only once in a lifetime. So in the Americas, every fall, around 350 species of birds migrate from the Arctic, from Canada and from the States to the south. There's an estimation that some scientists did that there are around 4 billion birds, 4 billion individuals from Canada, and around 4.5 billion of birds from the US moving south of the continent. It is very nerdy, so I strongly recommend that if you are interested on digging a little bit deeper on this, check this article, because they first used weather radars. Later on, they adapted some kind of weather radars to monitoring birds migrating. So it's very interesting. In the North American area, there are 4 main flyways or vias or ways, paths that the birds follow when they are migrating both north or south. 4 of those flyways pass by Mexico, because you can see it's like a funnel right there, Mexico and Central America. So basically, all of the birds that are moving from the States, from the States and Canada, at some moment they might get close to Mexico, or they can arrive to Mexico, or they just use our areas here, our natural areas, as a resting spot. The most important places here in Mexico are the wetlands and the forests for the migration migratory species. There are about 1,060 species of birds in Mexico, a little more than 1,000 species of birds. And from those, every year, we add 250, more or less, migratory species. And they stay in Mexico, either the northern part, the coast, the central part of Mexico. This is just some examples of those. And something very important that I just found out living in Mexico City is that there are 32 wetlands within Mexico City and surroundings, the metropolitan area. So 32 wetlands that are home, for example, to white pelicans. So believe it or not, in Mexico City, in wintertime, we have white pelicans just resting and waiting for warmer days. Okay, so let's talk about this beautiful insect, the monarch butterfly, basically an icon for the migration. of any kind. The species of monarch butterfly is Danaus plexipus, and they are native. This species is native to the Americas, but they had actually to North America, but they had a distribution to, or an expansion, they call it, to the south part of the Americas, to South America, but also due to the navigation, they expanded to the Pacific Islands, and after they expanded to the Atlantic Islands, very close to Spain and the Canary Islands. So we can find them as far as in Australia, but well, just keep in mind that they were, let's say, born and raised on the North America area. This is the natural or the original range. When we have a species distributed as far or in a global way as the monarch butterflies, for example, or the whales that I will talk about later, we have populations or subpopulations. So we have the northern population for the monarch butterfly, and this migratory population or the migratory group is considered by some scientists as a subpopulation. So they call it Danaus plexipus plexipus. There's a whole explanation on why the name and why they use the species twice. We actually have a webinar that explains that. So, but well, besides the behavior that this group of butterflies have each winter, there are also morphological differences between the butterflies that move every year and the ones that don't move. In this photo that I have here on the top, the right, the small butterflies are the same species, Danaus plexipus, but they are a sample from Puerto Rico. They don't migrate. The butterflies that are big here on the left side of the photo, those are from the States, and they do migrate. This is the migratory generation. So you can see there are morphological, anatomical adaptations for this behavior, for the migration behavior. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure you are familiar with the life cycle of a butterfly in general terms. For the monarch butterfly, we have a lifespan of 1 month, 1.5 months, more or less, depending on the temperature. All insects, butterflies included, they regulate their metabolism with the external temperature. So if it is very hot in the environment, they will develop faster, they will grow faster, and they die faster. So they live shorter lives. But if the environment is temperate or even cold, they can live longer. And well, this is something related to what happens with the monarch butterfly. So we have that the monarch butterfly on the stage of butterfly, of flying insect, it's a generalist. That means that they can feed basically on anything, on any flower. So they are just looking for the nectar. They don't care if it's, like in this case, a poinsettia, or if it is a milkweed that we always relate the monarch butterfly with the milkweed. On the other hand, the caterpillar, since the very day they are hatched, little larvae, until right before they turn into the chrysalis, all this time, they are specialists. That means that they will only feed on milkweeds. So that takes us to the milkweed is distributed basically on the tropics, on the neotropics, the Nearctic and the neotropical area. That it's I'm focusing only on the northern hemisphere. On the southern hemisphere is basically the same between the equator and the Nearctic, Neantarctic area of the southern. But let's keep on the northern hemisphere. So right here we have the northern limit of the milkweed. You can see it's right above the frontier, the border with Canada, the States and Canada, right around the Great Lakes. Ouch. So that's the northern limit for northern limit for milkweed. There are dozens of native species, but what happens when we have winter coming? Naturally, the milkweed will go on something that is called dormant stage. So there's no food available for the monarch butterflies. That gives us one of the clues, together with the other clues that they have, to know that they need to start migrating south. So as soon as we have the fall coming, as soon as we have the milkweed going dormant like this one, they will start packing up and moving, getting ready to move south. So basically what they do on the fall migration and is that they start moving before the cold is right next to them. So they just start getting all together, moving south, moving to this area in Texas, Louisiana, moving in Mexico until they arrive to the central part of Mexico, the highlands of the where the sanctuaries are. And basically this single movement, they are taking, of course, pauses. They actually rest at night. You don't see them flying at night, only during the day when they are warmer. This movement is about 2,500 miles, 2,500 miles, more or less. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer because they are on these areas and they have to come closer here, or there's a storm, or there's a tornado somewhere. So there's something that can move them from one side to another, but basically that's the way they come down to central Mexico. And they arrive to a very special forest that is called the Oyamel forest. So I want to talk about that a little bit because it's something very unique. So the Oyamel forest is, I think it's relinked. It's just like a leftover from the last ice age, where there were warmer areas in Mexico where there were more humidity. So these patches that you see here, these patches in black, those are Oyamel forests. But the area where the monarch butterfly arrives is only this little tiny place right here. That is the central part of Mexico, right next to Mexico City. And you can see is Mexico City here, and then right next to it we have the sanctuaries where the monarch butterflies congregate in colonies. So this image that you have here, these photos you have on the right, it's the forest cover, the tree cover with the monarch butterflies. So, but what happens after we have the season here? They spend the winter here, just resting, saving energy. That's important for them. And then we have the spring coming. We have warmer days, we have longer days, and then we have something inside the monarch butterflies that turns on or off, and they start some kind of mating behavior. We say love is in the air because it's true. You can see them in an interaction that is more similar to what they do when they are mating, but they are actually just basically getting ready to go back north. So with this animation that I will show you, what I want to make like very clear is how they go back, because we know one generation, the butterfly comes in one single travel to Mexico. But then what happens when they go back? Well, the very first one, the ones that were in Mexico, go back to the southern part of the States and they have children. Then those children mate and they have grandchildren. And so on and so on until they go all the way to the north. Remember, this part on the border of Canada and the state is the northernmost distribution of the milkweed. So they basically are following the milkweed as it is sprouting when they are mating and laying the eggs on the milkweed. So in all this time takes about 5 generations, 4 to 5 generations of butterflies. So this fifth generation, let's just round number on 5, the great grandchildren of the Mexican butterflies, the ones that were overwintering in Mexico, those are the ones that are coming back to Mexico on winter. So I hope that's clear. If not, I can explain that again. So well, that's basically the migration of the monarch butterfly. What can you do back home? I'm assuming if you are living on the States or Canada, what can you do over there to help the migratory phenomenon of the monarch butterfly? I think the most important is plant native milkweed, because it has a natural cycle that goes with the seasons that are at your specific home place, so you don't have to mow them and you don't have to worry about them being an invasive species such as tropical milkweed. I strongly suggest that you deny or don't take tropical milkweed, because that has been a problem that later on we can go deeper on that. But well, basically, plant native milkweed. If you live on the west coast of the state, uh, there's another population there that migrates to California. I strongly recommend you this website, cerces.org, this association, and that is located on California, nearby California. So you can have more like specific information for your area. So these are some of the websites that you can go and check and have information and to help the monarchs. Okay, let me talk about the gray whale. Beautiful mammal. Its scientific name is Scriptus robustus, and robustus, well, for obvious reasons, very broad and like chubby baleen whale. And Scriptus, I don't know how to pronounce that correctly, because it's from a Danish the Danish researchers that describe the species. So it was Daniel Scripti or Script, something like that. So it's the Latin name is Scriptus. So well, you can see it's quite a big whale, almost 50 feet in average maximum on length, and it can weigh up to 4 tons. That's why the name Robustus. They have a quite limited distribution on the northern area of the Pacific only. Back on the 18th century, 1700s, there was another population on the North Atlantic, believe it or not. They went extinct because of whaling on the mid 1800s. So the northern population of the Pacific gray whale, it's divided into populations, two subpopulations, one on the west coast and one on the east coast of the Pacific. The most abundant, or the one that has more individuals here, organisms here, is the Pacific one. That is the one that visits us every winter. The other one is a very small one that is going on there's a lot of pressure for still whaling on those waters, but well, there's a lot of research going on there to see if there can be more protection. So what they do on the northern areas of the Pacific, you can see basically on this Chukchi Sea, very cold waters, the Beaufort Sea, also super cool, very like freezing waters. So they are feeding here. For some rule is that the colder waters have more food sources, so they will be on these areas feeding. In this way, they basically they are dragging the bottom of the ocean in shallower waters. So what they are feeding off is these little tiny crustaceans named amphipods and other benthic animals that are in the area. So they go down on one of the sides. They can actually be right-sided or left-sided. So you can tell that because they have a smoother area, the one that they use the most, and they just filter the water through their balloons, and that's how they are feeding on these northern waters. But what happens when it's when falling is coming? Well, during summer time they are feeding there, but then we have fall coming and they start moving south. We actually have the pregnant females coming a little bit before than the others, because well, they have an urgency to come and give birth to the next generation. So they can actually travel 75 miles a day in average. Some juvenile gray whales actually stay away from the mating grounds. Let's just to give you a name, like on the California area, or on the south part of the California area, feeding, because they actually are immature. So they just move south, running away from colder waters and from decrease on food supply. So what they do here in Mexico in the Baja area, well, they are mating. This photo here is just amazing because we can actually see the mating itself. So we have a male on the top, a female in the middle, and another male that is helping them to stay on top on the surface and to get together for the intercourse. So it's a very nice thing, that photo. So they arrive to mostly three specific areas in the Baja Peninsula, in Baja California Sur, the southern state of the Baja Peninsula. They arrive to the Ojo de Liebre Lagoon, the San Ignacio Lagoon, and the Magdalena Bay area. These travel from the Chukchi Sea, from the Bering Sea, all the way to the Baja Peninsula is of about 5 miles. It's just one way. So let's do math, and it's 2 times that, 10 to 12, sometimes 10 to 12 miles of full trip, round trip from for this species. So it's also quite an amazing movement. And on this area is where we have these activities that are so important for the local communities and so beautiful to experience. The Nahab trip, it's run on the San Ignacio Lagoon, and in that specific area, this past season, this information was released on March of 23. They saw 33 mothers, that is like 66 with the babies, 33 mothers and 30 babies, and 52 solitary or single whales. So it's quite a very good number for that. Of course, if we see the Ojo de Liebre 400, more than 400, well, yes, but it's because they have a bigger area, they have a deeper environment, and they have like a wider place where they can stay. But well, Ojo, San Ignacio Lagoon is a very beautiful area to visit as well. So, well, the babies are born here in these three areas of the Baja Peninsula. Babies or calves, the technical name for a baby whale. They are about 15 feet long and like 2,000 pounds on weight. So that basically is less than 1 ton. So they are quite slim when they are just newborns, but they actually can double their weight in a matter of 1 or 2 months with the milk. So here you can see this diagram. Basically, the very first ones that are moving back north, are the single ones, the males, and the pregnant females. They are followed by the juveniles as well, but the mother and the calves are the last one going over there, because, well, they need to the baby need to rest, and they need to be nursing during the migration. So they are constantly nursing, and they need to rest a lot in all these stops that they are doing along the coast. Okay, so there was a research, they tagged a gray whale that they named Maria in the Baja Peninsula. So what they saw is that the areas where this gray whale was stopping, or what was the behavior this whale was having. So they couldn't tell if it was a male or a female, but they assumed it was a male. So it was mating in this moment. So that's why it has a stop in the San Ignacio, I'm sorry, in the Ojo de Liebre Lagoon, here on the northern part of the Baja, and then it has another stop here in the San Ignacio Lagoon. So from Bahia Magdalena, you can see all the way up is going like some, well, pit stops or biological stops for mating, most likely. But later on, they noticed, for example, on the Kodiak Islands, how they how this whale was moving also in and out and around. So it was having a feeding behavior in that area as well. And well, the last message from the chat was here on the Chirikov Basin, right between Russia and Alaska. So you can see it has like a very erratic movement. So very likely the whale here was feeding as well. So with this research that they did, they had a result of more than 5,500 miles of navigation one way. So that's why it was so surprising to know that they can travel up to 12,000 miles on a round trip. So there's the the information about the article. I strongly recommend you to read it. It's very interesting. Okay, so let me talk about the humpback whale. This is the one that I'm a little bit more fond of from the mammals, because I was working very closely to these animals. The scientific name for the humpback whale is Megaptera novanglia, and Megaptera refers to the very long pectoral fins. It's actually in proportion. It's 1/3 of the total length of its body. So here comes the genera, and Novanglia refers to New England. Actually, that is where they took the specimens to describe the species. So that's the story of the scientific name for humpback whales, Megaptera novanglia. So they are slightly shorter. They're kind of the same size, the same length as the gray whale. Remember, that was about 50 feet long. This one is 46, 47, the largest. But this is a little bit heavier than the gray whale. This can weigh from 30 to 50 tons. The humpback whale is distributed basically all around the world. They have populations on the north and south seas, from the Pacific Ocean, from the Atlantic Ocean. There's actually, we think there is like a resident population on the Indian Ocean that doesn't migrate. But in general terms, all of these populations move north and south depending on the season. So, for example, when we have our in the northern hemisphere, when we have our winter season, the whales from the southern hemisphere go back to are feeding on the equatorial area, like on the subtropical areas. But when we have the change on temperature, when the winter is right here on the northern hemisphere, the whales on the southern hemisphere are moving to the colder water. So basically, they are moving at the same time north and south of the world. It doesn't really matter if I tell you like it's winter here, but they are in this on this area. Just imagine when we have the northern whales on the tropical areas, the southern whales are closer to the pole. So that takes us to the specific North Pacific population, the one that comes to Mexico. So this population feeds on this area on the north, by Alaska, by the Sea of Bering as well. You can notice they don't go as far north as the gray whales, because they actually are not very, they are not adapted to colder water. So this is like the coldest they can tolerate, and that's why we have like resident populations feeding on these areas here of British Columbia or Washington areas. So in summertime, they are actually feeding on spring and summer time. And something very incredible is also the way they are feeding. Once again, these are also filter feeders. They are also baleen whales, so they basically filter their food the same way as the gray whales do. But they have a different feeding technique. They can create this kind of like bubble made out of nets. This net made out of bubbles, but also they can herd the fish into its mouth. So at the end, it's something like that. Like they move the pectoral fins, pushing the fish in the mouth, but at the same time they have trapped them in this bubble net uh, uh, that they created. So this is also another article that I recommend you to read, because it was very interesting to see how they made these illustrations. Pectoral herding, that it's a very innovative tactic for feeding. Um, so well, they are on the north feeding, and then they move south to the coast of Mexico and Central America, but also to Hawaii areas for mating purposes. That is from more or less December, November. They start arriving to Mexican coast around November the 1st, more or less, November the 1st or the second week of November. So they still have some time to go farther south to up to Costa Rica, some of them. So in this time of the year, they are here mating, and they are here also having their babies. And I wanted to share with you this video that I took on September 2017 in Puerto Vallarta, that show us one of the displays that they have. This humpback whale is very well known for the behavior when they are mating. They are very active. They show off. They are jumping off the water, or they are like getting in an actual fight among the males. Competing for a female. So in this group that we see, there were, this is just an exceptional day. We had a very calm water. We had this huge group of whales, and they were chasing a female that isn't on the top of the group, but at the same time, they are showing off and fighting to each other. So you can see they are coming up to the surface, like very close one to another. I think, yeah, these are males. All of these on the right side of the video are males, and the female should be somewhere on the left. She might go under the water. Well, you can see how many there are, how impressive it is to see them just like right next to another. So just imagine this 30-ton animal moving right next to the other, fighting, showing off. So basically, that's what we were seeing, or what we are seeing on these mating grounds, mating competition, mating behavior. And after that, well, we have also, besides that, I mean, we have also the calvings, the babies being born in here. So let me show you. The babies on the humpback whales are a little bit smaller actually than the ones of the gray whale. They are less than 15 feet long, but they are heavier. They weigh 1 ton or almost 2 tons sometimes. And the same, they are nursing for about 8 months, more or less. They are getting ready to go on the north. It's basically the same behavior in general as the gray whale, that first the single and the juveniles go north, and then the mother with their calves go north. So because for obvious reasons, they need to rest. And something very interesting about humpback whales is that you can actually identify them quite easily with the underside of the fluke of the tail, also with some specific marks. For example, this bite here, or this one that almost missed the whole tail. So this is a very exceptional work. I actually was helping some of these researchers taking photos. It's not easy to take the photo on the and on the good angle, or the good light, to have the tail print that we call this is a fingerprint, because it's unique to each one of the whales. So that's a way, something interesting to know about how we can tell one whale from the other. So well, in general terms, how can you help the whales, or how can you take care of them? How can you help to protect? I I can just summarize in report, join, and support. Report, for example, there are this app, Whale Alert. If you are going out for fishing, or if you are going out for I don't know, just like sailing out on the ocean, you can download this one, whalealert.org. And if you see a whale, you can report it. If it's in danger, in like I don't know, entangled, or you see there's a boat speeding around or something, you can report that. Or you can just join the citizen science project. For example, for the great whale, there's a census. I think it's coming one soon. Uh, uh, whalealert.org. So you can just go there and help counting the great whales that are migrating in this area of Los Angeles and California and Northern California as well. And for example, in Mexico, there's this nonprofit organization named EcoBack that also is part of where I was working, the photo identification catalog for humpback whales on the Pacific. So you can also go and check that one. And well, basically, that's it. Just check. We also have some webinars speaking about the trips that we have, the NatHab trips, the monarchs and the great whales of Baja. So check on this, very long. So nathab.com, and then somewhere on the right side of the window there is daily dose of nature, and in that area you can check Latin America webinars, and you can just scroll down and up. There are many very interesting webinars from my coworkers and myself, and we have these two. I think there might be a webinar coming soon, talking about the Baja adventure with the gray whale. So just stay tuned. Check our website. And well, whale, goodbye butterfly. That's it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. Now, before we start in with the question and answer session, I would like to remind everyone that they can submit their questions via the question field in your control panel. All right, so let's get to some of those questions. So do monarch butterflies, do the adults feed during their southern migration if food is available?
Yes, yeah, they actually are feeding basically all the time until they arrive to the sanctuaries. The thing is that the flowers that they are finding are not as nutritious as those that are available during spring and summer, because of course, well, there's less rain. There are other. It's completely different like environment for them, but they are feeding. So here in the sanctuaries, when we are on the trips, we see them nectaring on the on the flowers that are right there at the sanctuaries. But basically the energy that they take from that is minimum compared to those that they have back north on spring and summer. But yeah, they do feed.
So how many generations does it take the monarchs to fly south?
So what? Sorry, the last part.
When they are flying south, how many
Ah,
generations does it take for them to get there?
one.
Just one, but
Yes.
five to go north.
Exactly. So this is one generation. The ones that were born during spring and summer are here, chalala, and then suddenly they start getting cold and they just congregate. They go together. That's why here you see they are joining. So they just go together, they clump together. That's why we see so many together, and they just move south, all of them at once. So the same generation comes here. Later on, oh, I'm so sorry, 1 second. Later on, aquí está. They are all here in central Mexico. And then that same generation that came from the north mates, and that's when we have the the sequence of generations going north. But the one that comes south is one generation. They make the trip in one generation, like 3 months or so.
Wow, thank you for clarifying that.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've heard pros and cons about raising monarchs indoors, but can you talk about that a little bit? Is it detrimental to a butterfly to be raised indoors? Will it affect their instincts?
Well, there are actually, yes, some studies showing that they kind of have I don't know how they really is the check that, but kind of like they have a dormant, the instinct of migration is dormant if it's a captive or a bred in captivity monarch. Nevertheless, there are some beneficial things about that because you can give them like more higher quality food. You can protect them from predators. But on the other hand, the cons would be that if you are not careful, you can spread diseases from the ones that were in captivity to the ones that were in the wild when they are released. So as long as you look for information in liable resources in like this, some of these websites that I mentioned. For example, Monarch Watch, they have like or Journey North as well. They have very good scientific based information about how to raise monarchs at home and how to prevent the bad things from happening. So yeah, before you do basically anything that involves wildlife, you need to educate yourself a little bit in order to benefit the species instead of make some wrong to it. So yeah, basically just that. I mean, pros and cons for everything.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah.
So, are we concerned at all about the numbers of monarchs that exist? Are they a healthy species?
Well, so actually, the monarch butterfly species, is not endangered according to the red list, to the IUCN organization. What is endangered is the migration, the migratory behavior. That's the thing, the phenomena that I just explained is what we have in risk. And well, it's a multifactorial reason because we have the loss of forest here in Mexico, for example, the climate change, but also the loss of mating grounds or feeding grounds back there on the north. With if you notice, if you check, they are mating on the corn soy belt, I think is his name. So of course agricultural communities don't want milkweed in their fields, so they cut the fields, and the monarch butterfly lost the food source. So in general terms, they say is stable in the last 5 years, more or less, but in a wider panorama, we have a lower populations than those that we have 20 years ago, for example. But there are a lot of projects local here. For I can speak about like the ones that are here in Mexico, the reforestation programs, the protection programs that we have. But as well, there are a lot of programs going on the north part of the continent that are looking for the protection of the native environment of the monarch butterfly that is migrating. So a short answer would be we are not safe yet, but we are not that bad.
Great. Thank you for that. So,
Yes.
do male gray whales mate with many different females, or do they mate for life?
No, they are very promiscuous, like super promiscuous. They males and females, for what I read, they can mate with several partners. In general, males of baleen whales, of specifically humpback whales and gray whales, they can mate with several females during each mating season. So yeah, they are not monogamous at all.
Thanks for setting us straight on that.
Right. Yeah.
Can you, so a lot of people would like to see the link for the herding feeding article for the humpback whales that you put up. Is there any chance we could get that link again?
1 second. 1 second, please. Like super big, so you can see it right there. Right here. Madison et al. Pectoral herding and innovative tactic for humpback whale foraging. Published on October 2019. And there is the DOI. So basically, you just type all this HTTPS blah 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 for all of this. You type it down, and you should have the article available. Sometimes it depends on, it was like the DVDs, like your region is sometimes it's not available for free public access, and sometimes you have to pay for it to see it. But well, you can have a chance.
So, do we know what happened to Maria? Did the battery fall out or die? Did a predator get Maria? Do we know?
No, usually when they attach a tag like this, it's a suction, okay, suction cup, a suction cup. So eventually it falls down. So they can recover. Sometimes they can recover this kind of tags. So this is what happened. They assume the tag was left out because a lot of these whales come back very constantly to these areas. So they can be seen later. I don't really remember if they saw it later or before. But well, yeah, it's very likely what they say here, these researchers say here on the article, is that the whale lost the track. The track was detached.
So let's hope Maria is still out there chugging away.
Yes, hopefully he's visiting us this year.
All right. Well, unfortunately, that's going to be the last question that we do have time for today.
Okay.
So I'd like to give it back to you for some closing comments.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed this presentation. It's one of my favorite topics. And well, my recommendation is I just mentioned stay tuned for more information about the trips that we have coming, but also stay tuned with the newest information about this species and how can we what can we do about this back home, about the protection of these animals from our home place. So thank you very much.
Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to present for us today. And I'd also like to thank everyone who tuned in today. Now, if you're interested in information on how you can travel with NatHab, give us a call at the number on your screen, or you can send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. Join us tomorrow for our next Daily Dose of Nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude today's webinar. Goodbye, everybody. We will see you next time.